So this is a rundown of the basic materials that I use for inking. I've got a few of the common brands of ink that I use. As you can see, I use a couple different types of pH Martins. I've got Black Star High Carb ink here, as well as the matte ink. The matte ink works really well if you're doing a large area of solid black and you don't want reflection. It dries, as the name implies, it dries matte, so you have a little bit of reflection, but not nearly as much as you normally do in a typical brand of ink. Cali ink is pretty good. There's a brand that I don't have here, and that is Speedball Super Black, which I've also found to be a good dependable ink. Very dark, solid black, which I like. So all three of these inks here produce a really nice, crisp black. What I do is I transfer my ink into this large inkwell. And the reason being, these ink jars all have very narrow necks. They're not ideal for dipping your pen. When you dip your pen in there, it's hard to tell how deep you're dipping it and how much ink you're going to get on it, and it's messy. So I've got this heavy jar that I really like, and it's got a lid with a gasket in it, which keeps the ink from evaporating. So I always transfer everything into this, and sometimes I mix brands too. Like this inkwell has 2 or 3 brands of ink in it, which doesn't impact the effectiveness of it at all. It still works. In this other jar, I've got my isopropyl alcohol, which I use to clean the pen nibs. So I've always got next to me when I'm drawing my inkwell with ink, of course, and I've got this little jar of isopropyl alcohol for cleaning. And that also has a lid. I've actually glued a little rubber gasket in there to keep it airtight and prevent this from evaporating when I'm not using it. Just a note on the alcohol though, it does evaporate quite fast, as you know, so you will have to replenish this if you have it open for long periods of time, which I do. I will have to go and refill this jar periodically because it does evaporate. And then last but not least, I've got my paper towels here, which I always have a paper towel or two at hand to wipe the nibs off, and you'll see that in my little video that I'm doing on cleaning the pen nibs. But this is just a rundown of just the really basic supplies that I use. And the great thing about all these supplies is they're very inexpensive. The ink, one of the things I like about using dip pens versus technical pens, microns, and that type of technical pen, is it's cheaper. You buy 1 jar of ink, and that ink will last you, depending on how much you draw, it might last you months. So it just goes a lot farther. And another obvious nice thing is you can change colors of ink that you use without having to buy new pens. You can use the same pen and as many colors of ink as you want. And you can also use your dip pens with watercolor as well, which I do quite often. So there you go, just a quick video on materials, and let me know if you have any questions. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, found it useful, and I'll see you around.